Introducing Oakley Meta Vanguard, the new performance AI glasses designed for athletes. With hands-free capture on an action-ready ultra-wide camera, powerful open-ear speakers, and built-in Meta AI that syncs with your Garmin devices for real-time insights while you train. Take your performance to the next level with Oakley Meta Vanguard. Athletic intelligence is here. Learn more on meta.com.
The family that vacations together stays together. At least, that was the plan. Except now, the Dastardly desk clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for the stay.
This episode is presented by Tully, the perfect tool for high school and Division III programs. Tully helps coaches track player readiness, performance, and development all in one simple platform. Instead of guessing where your athletes stand, you'll know who's ready, who needs attention, and how your team is trending week to week. With Tully, you get the confidence that your players will stay strong and prepared deep into the season without adding more work to your staff. Learn more today at tully.app or click the link in the show notes.
Part of it is getting out of your own way and allowing good things to happen. The other part of it is don't be afraid to make a mistake. You know, it's 11%, that's 1 out of every 9 snaps. You can get away with having a mistake here and there.
One of the things I've tried to learn in the last few years is don't freeze your players with too much information. That's why I'm glad I have the staff I have here, because sometimes, they keep me honest. And then it's down to me to trim the fat and see if I can get exactly what we need to be as efficient as humanly possible for these guys.
The people that you deal with, there's going to be 10% of them that are going to be constant headaches. It's just the truth of it. Make sure you're not spending 90% of your thoughts on those 10% of people. Like you mentioned, allocating, my mental resources and our staff's, mental resources.
Welcome to the Hansen Ratings D3 Coach and Coordinators of the Week, presented by Tully, the performance and accountability app created by former Harvard football players to help coaches and teams stay connected, consistent, and competitive all season long. Each week, we recognize coordinators and head coaches across Division III football whose preparation, execution, and leadership stood out on the field. Joining me, as always, is the creator of Hansen Ratings, Logan Hansen. Logan, tell us what you thought about this past week performances.
We had some great games this last week. I got a chance to sit down and watch as many as I could over the weekend, and not a whole lot of disappointing games. Some really competitive ones. We had some lightning delays, and we had some top 25 matchups, and we're really starting to see the conference picture starting to take shape, and, looking forward and being able to kind of visualize who we think is going to be in the playoffs at the end of the year and who's going to be, raising some trophies within their conference.
Well, we have some great performances to share, so let's kick things off on the offensive side of the ball.
This week, that goes to Curran White from Concordia, Wisconsin, who won a really high-scoring game against Aurora this week, 54-45. And they did that with 561 yards of total offense on the day, 8.6 yards per play. They started the game with 2 punts, so they started off a little slow, not something you typically want to do against a team like Aurora. But then after that, they scored 7 touchdowns on their next 8 drives. And they did that with nearly 500 yards through the air. That was 13.3 yards per attempt, not per completion, per attempt. And both of those figures, the total yards through the air and yards per attempt, were more than double what Aurora's defense had been allowing coming into the game. So, the way these grades work on selecting teams, you have to perform well against a good opponent, and you have to do it better than you did the week before. So as long as you're improving and doing it against a great opponent, you're going to grade out extremely well. And that's exactly what Concordia, Wisconsin did this week. And it was also highlighted by 2 great performances from a couple of wide receivers who both went for over 100 yards on the day, and they had a third receiver with 82 yards. So it wasn't just a case where Aurora could try to key on one guy. When you've got 3 weapons out there catching the ball, it's really hard to stop an offense like that.
That's a big win for them, as you know, because Aurora has somewhat dominated that conference the last few years. Well, we want to congratulate Curran White, the offensive coordinator at Concordia, on a big win this past weekend over Aurora. And Coach, you guys did a great job offensively. We'd like to give you an opportunity to share or to give some props to your staff first.
Yes, sir. Thanks, John, for having me on. We've got a good thing here at Concordia, Wisconsin. We are in Mequon, Wisconsin, which is the suburbs of Milwaukee. I have been coaching small college football this will be my 25th year. And I've lived in some places where it was a college and a gas station. This is a beautiful area. We've got great support. We're right on Lake Michigan. Our head coach, Greg Adder, our athletic director, Dr. Rob Barnhill, our president, Eric Ankerberg, they're great to work with, and they let you do your job. I'm pretty fortunate to have a really good offensive staff. Joseph Federico is our quarterback's coach and passing game coordinator. He's got our quarterback, Roman Funk. He's playing pretty well, and he was very locked in on Saturday. Nick Erling is our receivers coach. He's in his second year on staff and does a great job. Tyler Ryan I coach the offensive line. He coaches them with me and does a great job. He played here at Concordia as well. And Jake Rippertella is our running backs coach. He's another CUW alum. We're also the same staff that got shut out by Aurora the last 2 times we were down there. So that's one thing I want to say on this show is be the same guy, coach the way that you believe in, and you got to be the same guy after things don't work as when they do work.
Well, we appreciate you recognizing your guys. As you know, on the show, Curran, we ask that our coaches share a little thoughts with our listeners. And you mentioned finding your players' strengths, and you also mentioned the idea or the concept of playing clean football. How about you share a little bit of that with our listeners?
Yeah, a couple things. A long time ago, I went to the AFCA clinic, and Coach Ralph Friedgen was at Maryland, and he talked about the idea of bad play ratio. Maybe everybody in the world does this, but we've tracked it every week. So our goals in a given game are not necessarily throw for 300, 400 yards or rush for 200 yards. Those are generally outcomes that come from playing clean. So our bad play ratio is sacks, penalties, turnovers, and drops. And not that you're going to play a game where you don't have any of those things, but if we add those up and divide it by our total number of snaps, and it's under 11%, we believe that we're playing at a clean ratio. So part of it is getting out of your own way and allowing good things to happen. The other part of it is don't be afraid to make a mistake. 11%, that's 1 out of every 9 snaps. You can get away with having a mistake here and there, but as long as we're lining up correctly, keeping our hands inside on blocks, we're going to minimize penalties if we can be sound in protections and have the quarterback have a good understanding of who we've got accounted for in protections and making good decisions, throwing the ball away when he needs to. Then we can minimize sacks and turnovers. And then if you can just make the routine plays, it's great if you make diving catches and one-handed catches, but if you just make all the routine plays, just run a clean offense. So we try to set up our practice that way and really focus on that in as far as process-oriented goals rather than worrying about what the outcome is. The other thing we like to talk about is deserving victory. So doing the things during the week to where when you show up on Saturday, you haven't left anything to chance. You've taken care of your end of things and you can just go and compete with a clear mind for 3 hours. Doesn't mean you're guaranteed to win. It means you deserve to win. You've done the things that during the week to give yourself the best chance.
Curran, do you have, on the flip side of playing the clean plays and trying to keep it to 11% or better, do you have a percentage of big plays that you try to accomplish every week?
We always try to strive for at least 6 chunk plays, what we call a run over 15 or a pass over 20 yards. I think we had 10 on Saturday, so that was a big day for us. Most of them came in the passing game, but you got to create some chunks of yardage. But when you're talking about a pass over 20 yards, that doesn't necessarily mean the ball travels 20 yards in the air. Sometimes it's a short pass or a screen, and you got guys blocking downfield and hustling and running to the football, and you can turn a short gain into a big gain and try to get guys to understand what role they can play in those type of things.
Now, maybe you said this, but I want to make sure I'm clear and our listeners are clear. I think you said your best chance at winning is at 11% or better. Have you found that it's 100% accurate that if you're 11% or better that you win?
I believe we had one game where we were under 11% and found a way to lose. But we've had tons and tons of games where we were worse than 11% and still found a way to win. So it's not a scientific fact or anything like that, but it should give you some idea of playing clean doesn't mean you're not making a mistake in the game. Bad things happen and you got to be able to overcome them. But as long as you can get out of your own way and allow something good to happen, then you got to give yourself a chance.
You know how many offensive plays you are averaging a game, Curran?
We are probably around 65 to 70. It's less than years past. That's one thing Coach Eder, our head coach, he's a defensive guy, and he talks a lot about complementary football. And I, as a younger coach on offense, I always thought it was more plays, more snaps, more points, and that was just the end-all, be-all. But there is something to be said for controlling the ball. I've always believed we got to have balance on, and that means we can run the ball and we can throw the ball. It doesn't mean we're 50-50, but it means we can be effective in both. And so I think we've probably slowed ourselves down, and maybe it's helped us. Just going fast for the sake of going fast used to be kind of my MO, but I think I've moved beyond that a little bit. Plus, when the boss says go slow it down and run the ball, that's what you got to do.
It's a good idea to listen to the boss, Curran, that's for sure. But I think a lot of times, and I'm guilty of this too, Keith could probably tell you, I think a lot of times we think that the more plays that you run, the more plays you get on offense in a game, that's always better. And the reality is, just as you said, that's not always the case, because if you're forcing your defense to be out there more, even though you're running more plays, that's not necessarily a good thing. So I think it's good that you recognize that isn't always the best way to approach the game.
I guess not. I mean, offensive guys, there's different schools of thought. But when you work for a defensive head coach, then that's what you do.
Well, Curran, we wish you the best the rest of the way, and we appreciate you being on our show. And again, we're happy that we could recognize a great performance on your part and your offense's part.
Hey, thanks, John. Appreciate you having me on. Go Falcons.
Coaches, we all know the struggle with keeping players at their best over the course of a long season. You're trying to track readiness, monitor performance, and manage development, but most of the time it's scattered between paper check-ins, text messages, or spreadsheets that take hours to manage. That's where Tully comes in. Tully brings everything into one simple platform designed for high school and Division III programs. With quick athlete check-ins, you get real-time insight into player readiness, workload, and performance trends. That means fewer surprises, healthier players, and better decisions on practice and game day. If you want your team stronger, more durable, and more confident late in the season than they were in Week 1, Tully is the tool you need. Learn more at tully.app or click the link in the show notes.
Now let's go to our defensive coordinator of the week, the unit that set the tone, dominated the line of scrimmage, and put together one of the week's most complete efforts. Logan, who is our DC of the week?
This week, that goes to Robbie Brown of Ohio Northern, whose Polar Bears defeated Capital 56-0. They held Capital to season lows in scoring and in yards per play. And they did that by excelling in what I call havoc plays. So those are the plays that create havoc for an offense, right? So they had 2 interceptions. They had an additional 7 pass breakups, and that was by 7 different defenders. They also had 8 total TFLs by 8 different defenders. They had 2 forced fumbles, one of which they returned for a touchdown, and they had a blocked punt that set up a touchdown 3 plays later. So creating havoc plays like that, and like I talked about with Concordia on offense, they had 3 different weapons catching the ball. Well, Ohio Northern had 15 different players making TFLs and getting their hands on passes. When those havoc plays can come from anywhere on a defense, it's really hard for an offense to stay on rhythm and gain some ground. Capital did have 2 long drives, but the Polar Bears stepped up. They had 2 big 4th down stops on both of those drives to keep that 0 on the scoreboard at the end of the game. Just a really excellent performance by Ohio Northern, and congrats to Coach Brown and his staff.
Finished training for the day? Time to fight post-workout fatigue with Core Power Protein Shakes. They're packed with 26 grams of high-quality protein to build muscle and electrolytes to help hydrate. The nutrition you need to help your body replenish, rebuild, and repair post-workout so you can power on to the next one. Champion your recovery with Core Power. Visit corepower.com to learn more.
Coach, congratulations on a great win and a great season so far. As you know, a shutout takes great commitment and a great game plan. And obviously everyone involved had to do a great job for you guys. So congrats. We want to recognize you and your staff. You have an opportunity to recognize your staff. So feel free to do that before we get into our sharing of an idea.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it, Coach. And one of the things I told our boys the other day, and especially in the DBs in my meeting room with them, is it takes a village not only to build this football program and kind of raise these guys into men, but it takes a village to help me do what I do. Everyone can tell you they love you when you're on top and they love you when you're having success, but very, very few people see the work that goes behind the scenes, not just by myself, but really my assistants. Huge shout out to Coach Schoitzo, Glenn Schoitzo, our linebackers coach, assistant head coach, Vaughn Thomas, our D-line coach, recruiting coordinator, probably one of the hardest working coaches I've ever been around. And even really down to our two young interns, Coach Dev Patel helping out with our D-line and Coach Mike Kellogg, who is transitioning into helping me with the DBs this year for the first time in his career. Like, to be able to bounce ideas off of these guys and get perspective and kind of help me sort through my thoughts as we build the plan, really just to put our guys in the right position. And I told our boys on Saturday after the game, and really again on Sunday, just reiterating, I am nothing without you guys. So the better you guys are, then obviously the better I can feel and the more confident I feel about, your ability to have success. So really just a huge shout out to our assistant coaches, huge shout out to Coach Freeze for giving me the opportunity to come back closer to home. I'm a Columbus guy, so being close to that area and recruiting guys from my hometown is near and dear to my heart. But just the people that I work with here and really the people at Ohio Northern in general, just embracing me and my family and helping us kind of find our place in Ada. And then it's always good to be recognized, but I would be remiss if I don't at least try to show some love to the people that help me on a daily basis, from my assistants to my players to my head coach. So,
well, again, we appreciate you being on. And as I said, having that kind of success on defense takes a great effort from a lot of people. As you know, as part of the show, we asked that our recipients share an idea with our listeners. And you had mentioned run fits out of, I think, quarters look. And
yeah.
So let's hear from you, Rob, some of the details on that for our listeners.
Yeah, we're a little unique. We're a 3-high structure, quarters-based defense. It's very similar to what they run out at Iowa State University, with Coach Haycock and those guys. I first learned about it, in 2017 when I was at Wilmington College, and I'd seen that they were trying to transition to that around the same time, maybe slightly before at Northern here. So I brought it with me to my time at some other places, really have kind of expanded upon it here. But the biggest thing for us is just clarity and being able to get whatever we're trying to communicate across to our boys as efficiently as humanly possible. So right here, this is one of our quarters-based looks. So we have our free safety to the boundary, our strong safety to the field here, and then our middle safety, which would be our star, working off of this. But really not focusing too much on the interior run fits here, Coach, really talking about our perimeter run fits. This was something that I kind of worked through, talked with Coach Schoitzo a little bit about it. And, he shared kind of his kind of stumblings on this and how he's learned it from other people. And really, it's just creating a numerical system for our boys on the edge, right? Which is how we identify receivers, how everyone in the country does that, right? So for our corners, right, in their base defensive structure, they're a meet one player, right? So they'll always meet, right, whoever becomes that number one on the outside, right? Because it's always not about where they start, right, Coach? It's about where they finish, right? Our strong safety here, right, and really either one of our outside safeties, they're going to be a meet two player as well. Our nickel, which is our overhang number 0, Miles Aldrich, great football player, local guy, Lima young man as well. Miles will be a meet 3 player, right? And then our middle safety will be a meet 4 player as it shows up, right? So we tell those guys, make sure you're meeting them on the outside of where the block is so you can force it always back to your help, right? So in this picture here, in a perfect world, it would look something along the lines of this, right? Obviously, we know it can change, so we try to change up the blocking looks, throughout the week. Like even it got to a point where I showed our boys on Friday before we broke from the team meeting. I was like, hey, fellas, here, this is probably the hardest blocking scheme we have on the outside, and it's not even something they do, right? So this concept allows us to put our guys in a lot of what if scenarios to cover a lot of bases on a weekly basis. And really that allows them to kind of stack their knowledge and kind of build that lexicon of information for them to fall back on in a real time there, coach. So first play here, you're going to get an outside play to the bottom of the screen, right? So you're just going to see our three guys here from our strong safety, nickel linebacker, and our field corner react to the perimeter, right? Run pass option here, right? So number one, Terrion Ross is going to be trying to meet number one on the outside, right? Jacob is going to end up meeting two to the outside here, right? And then Miles, his meet three is in the backfield, but you're going to see him react on what we call the ball out break, right? So once he feels this ball's pulled, right, then now that's his reaction time to the perimeter. So he's working three inside out. Jacob's working two outside in. Terrion's working one outside in, kind of as that secondary contain. And you could see they build a nice little triangle on the ball carrier as it hits. And that's the nice little net that we want to create. And then it puts us in a position to get a 0-yard gain on an early down there, coach. Next one here, same concept, right? So now they're going to end up getting the three out to the perimeter here with motion. Our star is going to push our nickel outside to the new number three. And then now they're just helping us get into our run fit a little bit quicker here, right? So you'll see as it happens, right? Boom. Okay, there's one, there's your two, there's your three, right? Miles is looking to meet three as the lead blocker here. Our safety comes down to meet two, right? And because Miles triggers so fast, right now it makes it a clear picture, right? We talked about the clear read for our safeties and our linebackers and our players, right? So here, very nice, easy read. Get on the outside. You're going to be in the alley as it shows up. Number one's got to check and make sure this is not a double pass. This is not a play action deal, right? So he's going to transition his eyes down to number one at some point and then work on the outside as well. So there we go. Boom. Nice, easy tackle. Good little kill the legs. And then you can see our stars running as the fourth player here. So 1, 2, 3. Our star's got to end up pushing 4 to all of his help. And now we're able to kind of build that net just with different humans in different ways as well. Next deal here, coach. Okay, so now this is a nifty one here. You're going to get motion that's going to end up pulling now our will linebacker out of the box. So our will linebacker is going to work in the same way that our nickel would to the field. Okay, they're just going to remove him from the box a little bit here. But now our safety is still operating, right, with his meet 2, corner still meet 1. Right now the will instead of the nickel is meet 3 here. So again, they're working like bash concept, right? Okay, just trying to get this guy on the edge. Okay, go ahead. Zach right here can take this trigger, can meet his 3 on the outside. That's going to force either the block, right? Or it's going to be a nice clear alleyway for Zach to go and hit it. Okay, Cooper right here is going to be meeting 4. In this case, his 4 is going to be the quarterback. So just checking for the quarterback, make sure he doesn't pull it so we don't lose our plus at. And then we always talked about getting over top or meeting him outside. So now as the quarterback hands it, his new 4 becomes the tackle. If he goes underneath this block here, we're up against it. We're going to lose a man, right? So now you can see number 7 attacks the tackle on the outside shoulder. There it is, right? Got a great little fit here, but unfortunately we missed the tackle. But because number 7 met his 4 outside, then now he's able to run this thing down, push it to the sideline, use it as your best friend. Great job by our number 2 here, okay? And the safety checks. He sees the receiver break down, right? So now we're 100% sure this is not a pass. We've seen a change in pad level. We've seen a change in demeanor, right? He's no longer trying to press us downfield. So now we can meet him on the outside. And this is something we worked on. I'm very proud to see this, is clearing the hands, the little swipe move there. Boom. Clear the hands of the blocker. Now that allows you to attack, right, and press upfield, okay? And then there we go. Boom. Nice little combo tackle on the outside. And I believe this is the last one here. Yep. So this is, again, just kind of showing how it's trickling down. We're kind of towards the tail end, right? First time playing here as a freshman, young man from Florida for us. So you can see the coaching is really taking hold with their young guys. And coach, I got to be honest with you, that's probably what I'm the most proud about right now, is when our young guys are really buying into what we're trying to accomplish, right? So again, same deal. You're going to see this thing hit on the outside. Azariah is going to hit this thing to the edge. right? You're going to see Jacob hit his meet 2. Andrew's going to have meet 3 going inside out, and then Cooper's working meet 4 right as we go here. Okay, but again, what you're going to see and what I'm most proud of, you see number 19, once he transitions, boom, gets his eyes to the receiver. Now watch that, create extension. You love to see it. Boom, extension, gets the guys on his heels. He's attacking the outside shoulder, so he's got a clean path here. The only thing I would like to see from him, and again, freshman, right? He hasn't been doing this for very long, just like Jacob did on that last one, clear the hands, so now you can go get involved in the play, right? But even though he gets kind of held up a little bit here, he creates that extension. Now he can create a dent and make this ball carrier run east and west, right? We're still trying to meet our 2, but tell the safeties, don't be a robot here, right? If this guy now gets around the defense, then now you can fit off the corner and recontain this thing. Okay, and there it is. He stretches it out. Boom, great form tackle right on the edge there, coach. So those were just some quick little tidbits. The biggest takeaways, right, is making sure that we in a quarters-based system understand where our help is, understand who our initial keys are, and then understand who we have to meet, right? And then when we meet them with violent force. So as long as we can do those things and have great eye discipline. Now, obviously, the biggest thing you have to worry about off of that is play action pass, which is why we always tell the DBs, train your feet with your eyes, right? Once you react, your feet have to go, but your eyes have to come with it. So you can see through and smell a rat if they're trying to run like a screen and go or a double move or a double pass or something along those lines. Just something simple, wanted to make sure I had something to share with the community, man, because I've learned so much from this great profession. So, I hope that gives you guys a little insight without diving too terribly far into the well here. But, in any way I'm able to give back to this profession that done so much for me and my family, man, I love it.
Rob, that's great stuff. Tell me again, you said it. What do you call your middle field defender there? What do you refer to him as?
Yeah, he's our star safety. He's kind of that middle safety guy, middle linebacker in an old school 4-3 type deal. Like, that guy's kind of hard to find because he's usually your best football player. Most instinctive type guys, like there's not a whole lot of rules. You give them kind of like I talked to our guys about, remember when you went bowling with your parents when you were kids, right? Throw the bumpers up and now you can operate kind of within those bumpers, right? One of the things I've tried to learn in the last few years is don't freeze your players with too much information. This is why I'm glad I have the staff I have here because sometimes, they keep me honest. Like, hey, coach, you might want to rethink maybe that's going to put someone in conflict or, that's a lot of things that we need to consider, and then it's down to me to trim the fat and see if I can get exactly what we need to be as efficient as humanly possible for these guys. But that is arguably between that guy and our nose tackle and our Mike linebacker to get us in all the right checks. Those are the 3 most important positions on this defense, from my perspective.
That star position, I'm assuming that a lot of teams don't account for him. So if he can run and obviously is active, he can make a lot of plays because people aren't accounting for him, which I think is a unique feature of that defense.
A lot of people have been trying, and that's where at other places I've been, I've noticed we were kind of a little slow on that perimeter fit. So we try to find different ways. Coach, we try to find as many ways as we can to crack that guy. You know what I mean? That guy in our backside safety. Like, okay, is it coming from number 1 receiver? Is it coming from a 2 receiver, right? Are they motioning out of 3 and bringing them back into crack? And that's why, in order, kind of like we talked about with the village working together, as long as everyone's doing their jobs and are 100% sure as to what they're seeing, right? If you bring one for that guy, it brings one more guy into the party, right? If you want to bring the number 2 in, then it dang well sure is going to be able to bring our strong safety in, right? Now, again, depending on what that demeanor is, we tell those guys to match the top shoulder, right? So if you're trying to search crack that guy, maybe you slip over into like a cross route, or maybe you're like a U-Sum under Sam over Mike. We worked the heck out of that since spring ball this year. So we talk about trying to meet those guys as quickly as possible. So it's carrying over into our coverage aspect just as much as it carries over into the perimeter run fit.
Yeah, that's great stuff. Rob, we can't thank you enough. That was really a lot of fun to go through that. We wish you the best the rest of the way and appreciate your time.
Thank you, Coach. Hey, appreciate you guys, man, and go Bears.
To wrap things up, this week's head coach of the week, a leader whose team delivered an all-around performance that reflects preparation, poise, and purpose. Logan, who is our head coach of the week?
This week, that honor goes to Dan Wodicka of Johns Hopkins. This is a team that we probably could have picked 5 different games for them this week and said that they were our coaching staff and team of the week. But I chose this week because, they played a great opponent. Ursinus has been a playoff team out of the Centennial for years in a row now. They've always given Johns Hopkins competitive games, and this one wasn't that competitive. Johns Hopkins outgained Ursinus by over 200 yards in total. The defense, they only allowed 57 total yards rushing, and that was on less than 3 yards per rush. And they held Ursinus's QB to below a 50% completion percentage. Just didn't let Ursinus stay on schedule throughout the whole game. And then offensively, Johns Hopkins is on a different level right now with their quarterback, their running backs, their receivers all having amazing performances. It was a balanced attack. They had 315 yards passing, 228 yards rushing. They only punted once, and their big players came up big. Big-time players make big-time plays in big games. So Bay Harvey, their quarterback, he had 315 yards passing. Their running back, Schroeder, had over 100 yards rushing. And then Cole Crotty, their wide receiver, he had 228 yards receiving. So sometimes, as a coach, the easiest thing to do is just let your star players be star players and not have to do anything outside of structure, but just go out and make plays, and that's exactly what Johns Hopkins did against Ursinus on Saturday.
Here's our conversation with Dan Wodicka. Hi, Dan. Congratulations on another big win. You obviously have had some great wins this past season, and we're excited to have you on. Want to give you an opportunity to give some props to your coaching staff, so feel free to do that before we get things started.
Absolutely. First off, appreciate you all having me on. And yeah, I can't say enough about our coaching staff here, to be honest with you. And it's something that was really excited about going into this season and really proud that we were able to keep our full-time coaching staff from last season. And I think that really shows how dedicated these guys are and really knew not only this season, but, going forward, how special this program is. They help me out. And, in the Division III world, it's not just coaching, X's and O's. They help me out with absolutely everything when it comes to running the program. But specifically, Coach Robotics on the offense side of the ball, the results have spoken for themselves this year of just, really, really high-powered offense. And I'm really proud of him going through, last year with having, some injuries at some key positions and finding ways to win games, and has really grown a lot in his time here. And going on the defense side of the ball, Coach Hill, I joke, but I don't joke all the time. I was the old defensive coordinator here, and thank goodness I fired myself when I became the head coach because, we had statistically one of the best defenses in the country last year, and I have a great group this year by some great senior leadership on the defense as well. I can talk for a while about all the coaches, but I'll also add specifically Coach Rio Bird, our recruiting coordinator. We all know to run a successful program, hey, you got to get guys that fit our academic profile, are, a culture fit, and also great football players. It's really, really tough to do. So really proud of him and doing a great job in terms of keeping the program at the level that we think we can run it here. So we're really proud of all my guys. They're doing a great job, and hopefully we can keep this thing rolling.
You took over the job at Johns Hopkins, a place that has had great success and history and some great coaches. And I'm sure you've taken some things from these guys that you worked for. As we know, you've been winning at a high level. And it's part of the format, Dan, as you know, we like our coaches to give a little coaching, share something that, they've maybe learned or taken along. You had mentioned something about time management and where to allocate your mental resources. So how about you share a little bit of that with our listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, talking from a head coach's perspective, it's funny, right? You get into the coaching profession. Most of us, right, love the game of football, love working with these young men, but it starts out very, very technical, right? At the position level or GA, whatever it may be. As you grow and move up, you get away from the actual football side of things pretty quickly, and especially when you become the head coach. So in terms of my transition, it's definitely a lot gets thrown at you right away. Even if you think you're prepared for it, you're never fully prepared about just how many different entities you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis, whether that's, administration in the athletic department, that's across campus, alumni, parents, you're in charge of now, 100 guys on the team and the coaching staff. And so it's just, you can get pulled in a lot of different directions. And that was definitely a struggle for me at first in terms of, hey, how do I feel like I'm drinking out of a fire hose just constantly, and, received such great advice from all the coaches, like playing and coaching for Coach Margraf, learned so much obviously under him, and the coaches that I've been able to coach for, just getting pieces of knowledge. But something that has actually really, really stuck with me me. It was actually my dad. My pops gave me some advice, and he's an engineering professor at Purdue University. And he was the biomedical engineering department head for 25 years there. So I managed a lot of people throughout his time. He told me something a few months into becoming head coach. He said, hey, the people that you deal with, there's going to be 10% of them that are going to be constant headaches. All right. It's just the truth of it. Make sure you're not spending 90% of your thoughts on those 10% of people. And that's really stuck with me in terms of just, again, like you mentioned, allocating, hey, my mental resources and our staff's, hey, mental resources. You can't just funnel it, hey, this one group or this one department is that 10%. We know in all of life, like even if you have a great group, like, hey, we have some great players here. There's always a few that, hey, take a little bit more, a little more to buy in, whether it's culture or schemes or whatever it may be. We have the best alumni and best parents, in the world, but there's always a few that, aren't always happy about things or whatever it may be. So I really try to narrow it down into, hey, like, what are our core principles? What am I trying to achieve with this program? What are we trying to achieve as a program? And if something, hey, affects those principles, and those are, hey, like, we're giving our student athletes the best student athlete experience possible. We're making sure, hey, academically, they're getting to where we want to get to. On top of it, winning football games, of course. If it affects those three things, hey, it's going to be something that's going to be, at the top of my list to get done. Then also, as the head coach, you have to think about, hey, make sure you're keeping those three things for 2, 3, 10 years down the road as well. So if it affects those, okay, this is going to be on my top of the list that day, and make sure I'm getting those things done, or getting back to these people, or having this conversation with this player, or whatever it may be. But also just giving yourself some grace. Like you can't get back to everyone over or in the course of a day. And especially, you go in, like say I go into the day of, hey, these are the 25 things I'm hoping to get done. Actually, Chris Merritt, who's the head coach at Bryant, he told me right when I became head coach, he said, your to-do list as a head coach, no matter how much you do, it's never going to change in length. It's just the truth. You can come in saying, hey, I'm going to do these 25 things, and maybe you do 25 things, but it was 25 things that popped up throughout the course of the day that you weren't expecting. And so you really just have to allocate, okay, what's really important right now? What can wait, a week? What can wait a month? And getting back to people, saying, hey, I see this, but right now I just can't, don't have the time to work on this. Can we follow up, in a month from now, or whatever it may be? That has helped me a lot. And also just, I would say being able to balance personal life as well is something that I struggled with, in my first year coaching. Because again, yeah, as I mentioned, your list never goes away. And so you feel like you can work 20 hours a day and there's always something to do, but you eventually run yourself ragged. And then you're not bringing your best self into the office or into, conversations with players or mentoring guys, whatever it may be. So I've, and thankfully me and my wife were blessed to bring a little baby girl into the world just over 4 months ago. And I realize now, that definitely changes, life priorities pretty quickly. And so having that life balance as well of knowing, hey, like, when I get home in the evening and I have an hour and a half to hang out with little Winnie, like just hanging out with her for an hour and a half and then coming in refreshed, ready to work the next day, that's better than me responding to emails for an hour and a half that night sometimes. So I think just from a mental side of things, it's going to be a lot no matter how much you plan. But I think if you go in just giving yourself some grace and having a general plan on, hey, what is really the most important things that need to get done? And also, as I mentioned before, a fantastic assistant coaching staff and knowing that I think going in through my first year, I wanted to, let the assistant coaching staff like focus on football. Like that is it, focus on the players, focus on schemes, X's and O's, and I'll handle the rest. You can't do it on your own as hard as you try, you really can't. And so being able to find those things to delegate to those assistant coaches, and it's not only helping you and the program in that minute, but also helping them grow professionally and them getting a side, and Coach Camara, who I worked for, who's the previous head coach here, he was great at that with me of seeing, hey, this is how you book travel, right? Like, I go back to, when we flew out to DePaul for the playoffs last year, we have this big win against Grove City. Everyone's excited. And half hour after the game, I'm getting a call from our business manager saying, hey, you need to get a flight manifest together in the next few hours. It's just like, whoa, okay, like here we go. And so as much as you can, let the assistant coaches help you out with that. So when it is time for them to be in those roles, hey, they at least feel, comfortable. Hey, I've done this before at previous places. So that's my philosophy on things. And I'll be the first one to tell you, I do not have it all figured out yet. And I probably never will, but I've definitely learned a lot in this last year and a half. of just how to at least keep my sanity throughout this whole process. And I think most importantly, it was early on, I got away from it being fun, to be honest with you. It truly felt like, hey, it was a stressful day every day, just trying to, hey, win football games, but also give these guys great experiences. And now going into this year, it's wow. Like this is college football. This is supposed to be fun. Coach Margraf would say, hey, pressure is for surgeons and soldiers, not college football players. So I'm reminding myself of that a lot more as well. And that's where you're your best self, your true authentic self going out. And then that's why we do what we do, because at the end of the day, man, this is a ton of fun. This is a ton of fun being able to be around these amazing young men, play the best game in the world, be a part of their lives. So it's been a joy so far this season.
I'm sure Coach Margraf had a lot of good things to relay to you, but it sounds, Dan, like you've adopted, which is called the win philosophy, which is what is important now. What's important now? I think if you adopt that and really focus or hone in on, this has to be dealt with now. This can be dealt with later. This can be dealt with down the road. I think that helps you in terms of knowing where to spend your time. As you said, that's critical because a lot of things can come into your office and bombard you and you feel overwhelmed with, how do I handle this? But if you go back to that philosophy of what's important now, that can help you discern where to spend your time. And I think that's really good. And the better you learn that or recognize that or live that, the easier your life is going to be as a head coach, buddy.
You nailed it. Exactly right.
We can't express enough. We wish you the best as you continue on. So good luck the rest of the way. And thanks again for your time.
I really appreciate it, guys. Seriously, thank you so much. It means a lot to myself and the coaching staff. And thank you for everything that you do.
That wraps up this week's Hansen Ratings D3 Coaching Coordinators of the Week, presented by Tully. Congratulations again to our honorees. Offensive Coordinator Curran White of Concordia, Wisconsin, Defensive Coordinator Robbie Brown of Ohio Northern, and Head Coach Dan Wodicka of Johns Hopkins. Thank you again, Logan, for your work putting together this week's honorees. We're excited for this coming week's winners.
I know it's going to be another great week of football. I just checked, and I think there's 9 different conferences where at the end of Saturday, there's going to be a new outright number 1 or a new number 1 team in the conference standings. That's going to really start to shape the picture, like I said at the top of the pod, and I'm really looking forward to watching some of those games.
Actually, I looked at all the conferences around the country as well and saw that there are, as you said, I think 9 games that are between the first rank or the first team and second team in the conference throughout the country, which this is a big weekend around the country.
Yep, it's going to be great, man. I'm pumped up.
Thank you for listening to Coaching Coordinator Network, Hansen Ratings D3 Coaching Coordinators of the Week show. We'll be back again next week with our week honorees. Be sure to check out our presenting sponsor, Tully.app. Go to their website and see all the things that they are doing. Definitely something that can help you as a coach, whether you're at the high school level or the D3 level, in managing your athletes and their development.